Britain experienced the wettest winter on record this year, and with all of that rain came a lot of flooding.
It has rained every day this year.
Cars submerged and homes flooded.
But the rain has been relentless so far this year.
But we've been spending billions on flood defences, so why does it keep getting worse? And yes, there's more than one reason, but part of the answer might be somewhere we've never thought to look. Like right here. These are wetlands, areas of land saturated with water, and they do something incredibly simple but important.
They prevent flooding. They act as like a large sponge, effectively, soaking up water running off of urbanised areas, preventing that flooding.
Think of it like this. When it rains, all of that water has to go somewhere. Let's pretend that this sponge is a healthy wetland. So, when it rains, the wetland soaks and absorbs all of that water, gradually releasing it over time. But if you take this away, or let's say you drain or damage the wetland, what happens when it next rains is that water has nowhere to go other than into our towns and cities. So if wetlands are this amazing natural defence system, why aren't they working?
Well, here in Britain, we've lost 75% of our inland wetlands in the last 300 years.
So 3/4 of our natural flood defences have been removed. We dug channels, laid pipes and straightened rivers. And the scale of this is huge. Take a look at this map of Cambridge, for example. It looks perfectly normal on satellite view, but swap to map view and you'll notice that every field has a drainage ditch. And these ditches were dug often hundreds of years ago to drain water off the land so farmers could grow crops on it. And it worked. Britain became one of the most productive farming countries in the world. But what we didn't realise at the time is that we were also draining our sponges, our wetlands. And without them, when heavy rain hits, that water has nowhere to go but down into our towns and cities.
So a lot of the reason why wetlands have been damaged and removed in the last sort of 300 years has been due to agricultural intensification as well as urbanisation. Pollution as well has been a massive issue. These are now being addressed. There's a lot of work to do still to get back to our previous levels.
So I wanted to know, can this actually be reversed? How do we get our sponges back?
Sites here like Middleton Lakes can show that you can bring wetlands back from the brink. This used to be a former gravel extraction quarry pit, so even these really hard worked, intensified areas can still be brought back.
So restoration is definitely possible, so why isn't it happening?
I have a farm, family farm on the Somerset Levels and Moors, which is a beautiful flat area of landscape, really spectacular. But because it's flat and attached to several rivers, water is a key component of everything we do. Water management and land management go hand in hand. On the Levels and Moors, there's been a slow build-up of phosphates over the years from industrial processes, farming, etc. And it's made the habitats there degraded. Lots of eutrophication, algal growth in the ditches that's suffocating wildlife.
So the wetlands we have left are being damaged by runoff from the surrounding farmland, which used to be wetlands too. Nutrients like phosphorus in fertilisers run off into the water and the algae eat it, consuming oxygen as they do. And they do it on such a scale there's not enough oxygen left in the water for other life. But while we're exploring the wetlands with Jake, we kept coming across these things.
It's a very important plant species within one of our wetland ecosystems. It's a fantastic resource in the winter for birds. The bulrush heads contain invertebrates, which things like lesser-spotted woodpeckers, which are a red-listed species here, they feed on. And it's also fantastic habitat for nesting birds and for fish as well.
These are bulrushes, or cattails if you're in the US, or Typha latifolia if you're a Roman. And Will had discovered something remarkable about them.
It struck me that Typha, a native plant, is very phosphate hungry. It's a very aggressive grower. So if we could find a way of growing that at scale, removal of that plant would remove the nutrients and start bringing our wildlife sites back into use.
So this one plant does two things at once. First, it grows in exactly the wet conditions that wetlands need. And as it grows, it hoovers up the excess phosphates and nutrients that are killing them. You grow it, it cleans the water, and if you can harvest it, you remove the pollution from the system entirely. So if Typha can restore wetlands and clean up polluted water, why isn't it growing everywhere? Like many things, it comes back to money. Wetland restoration delivers huge returns over time. The Environment Agency calculates that every £1 spent on flood defences like wetlands prevents about £8 of damages to businesses, homes and infrastructure downstream. But it costs money up front, and that cost falls mainly on landowners and councils who don't see most of the benefits themselves. What's missing is a way to make planting wetlands pay, unless someone could find a use for all of that harvested plant material.
In a way, I hadn't anticipated harvesting. I was looking at a tool to manage the habitats. And then I was lucky enough, again, pure fortune, I bumped into Ponder, who were looking to produce a product from Typha. And I thought, well, if we can tie ecosystem restoration into a marketable product, then, we're home and dry, no pun intended.
Ponder, a company based in Bristol who'd figured out something extraordinary about what's inside these seed heads.
So we take these kind of explosive clusters of natural fibers that exist within the distinctive kind of cigar-shaped seed head of Typha latifolia. We use that to produce a natural fiber replacement for goose down and synthetic fillers that go into puffer jackets and other sort of insulated outerwear. It expands to about 300 times its own size once it's dried out. So we use that characteristic to create a product called BioPuff, which is a plant-based replacement for goose down and other synthetic fillers.
I went to Bristol to see how this actually works.
Hey Tom, nice to meet you.
So we've got Typha from the wetlands.
Yeah.
It's arriving here. What are we doing with it?
So the first step is we kind of extract that fiber. We pull out the woody stem in the middle as a byproduct, and then it passes through a kind of series of cleaning and processing steps before it's kind of bagged and packaged. So what you're seeing here is our final purified fiber. You can see it's nice and light and fluffy in the bags there. This gets baled up and shipped off to our manufacturing partners who do the final step of producing the fabric that we use for BioPuff.
But if Typha is so good for wetlands, doesn't ripping it out the ground defeat the purpose?
In short, no. We take a huge amount of care to preserve the ecosystem and the sites that we harvest as much as possible. It's also a perennial crop, so we don't have to go back and dig it up and replant it. Once we've harvested it, it naturally grows back every year.
Ponder's mission started in 2020 around a very simple question, which is it possible for us to create a material supply chain, a new novel textile, which is inherently healing to the planet? Regenerative farming can mean a whole bunch of things, but for Ponder, what regenerative farming means taking drained, damaged wetlands and re-wetting them, reintroducing water like you can see here to enable us to grow wetland plants.
I see it being a core component of those wet fields where we need to regenerate or we can't do anything else with it. So it's a part of a mosaic of habitat and land uses that make the landscape as a whole more resilient.
So we can take degraded drain land that's contributing to flooding and pollution, re-wet it and grow Typha. Our spongy wetlands can come back, creating habitat, storing carbon and helping to prevent floods. And because Typha has economic value, farmers don't feel like they're taking a financial hit on it, not to mention the money they save on flooding damages. So if we can grow this insulation, why hasn't the fashion industry switched? It's more ethical than down insulation and doesn't produce microplastics like synthetics.
What's holding fashion from changing to this material is a combination of things. One is that they want to have down, but at a polyester price. Then you also get that a lot of the departments are not aligned on their sustainability goals. And finally, there is an issue with comfort. Sometimes changing to recycled polyester or recycled down seems a lot easier and low risk. So they prefer like that familiar change that won't really disrupt their actual supply chains.
But just because the fashion industry isn't built to change overnight, that doesn't mean that change isn't happening.
You can see BioPuff on real products today. We've been working with brands such as Sheep Inc., for example, that we had a launch just this winter. We also work with smaller designers like Seeing Red, and then we have big brands that support us like Berghaus or Parley for the Oceans.
And it's not just Ponder that are working to create regenerative materials. People like Sophia with her company Human Material Loop in the Netherlands are creating fabric and yarn but out of human hair. And companies like Pangea are making puffer jackets filled with flower down, a fluffy insulation made from wildflowers grown without irrigation or pesticides, which biodegrade naturally when the jacket reaches the end of its life. And companies like Fashion for Good are leading the charge in supporting amazing innovators and designers too.
What we do is we connect innovators, brands, manufacturers, and investors to help bring these new technologies and materials to market. Our overarching goal and aim essentially is to bridge the gap between a brilliant idea and industry adoption. And similar to companies like Ponda, it has been incredibly exciting because they represent a new generation of innovations that is rethinking the raw materials from ground up.
So next time you pass a wetland, you may look at these funny corn dog looking things with a new perspective, as little miracle workers that allow wetlands to thrive and keep our coats nice and cozy. It simply opens up the question, what other environmental solutions are out there which support both the land, people and our climate? I want to find more of those solutions, and if you'd like to join me on that journey, tap the subscribe button down below and hit like to keep more good news and solutions on your newsfeed. I'll see you in the next video, my friend. Bye.